everybody. I'm Randy.
I'm Steve.
Bible over a beer. Cheers, buddy.
Salute.
Good to be back in the
Nostrovia.
studio. Back together in the studio. We miss each other dearly. I'm
Definitely
sure.
the FaceTime.
I
that's
miss
for
you
sure.
anyways.
Oh,
But
yeah.
anyways, we're continuing on with 2 Samuel. This is part 3, the final chapter, 17 through 24.
It
And
is.
let's get into it. I'm going to do a quick recap.
You do that.
Our last series, part 2. Recap, chapter 15, verse 34. And I hate pronouncing names. Ahithophel,
Yes.
his counsel was treated almost like the same as God saying it himself.
Correct.
And David had, asked the Lord, turn his counsel into foolishness. And then David had his inside man, Hushai, who also gave counsel. And so, we're gonna discuss that here in just a bit. So, chapter 17. Ahithophel.
The names again.
Sorry.
Yep. Ahithophel.
Who is this guy?
He's the same guy you just talked about.
All right, thank you. So he's going to give some advice to Absalom, who we know is David's son, who has become the new king.
He's a naughty son.
He won the hearts of the people. In verse 2 and 3, strike down only the king and bring all the people back to you. So this was Ahithophel's counsel.
Yep.
Okay, and that counsel sounds good to me. So in other words, let's not kill all of Israel. Let's just get rid of the king and then bring the people into your fold. Right? Isn't that like the humane thing to do?
Yeah,
to go to war.
That
and kill
was
everybody.
a smart part of the council, and the other smart part of it was David's running, he's fleeing, he's weak, right? So
Right.
get him now, right? Don't let him capture, because David is a
Exactly.
warrior. So
Right. So that is sound counsel, but the Lord made it sound like foolishness to Absalom. That was the whole idea. Because now he asked for Hushai's advice, who is David's inside man.
nope. Yes, he is.
And in verse 8, he says, your father and his men are fighters. In verses 9 and 10, if you attack first, then even the bravest soldier's heart will melt with fear. So basically what he's saying is basically kill David and all of his men. These men are fighters. You know what I mean? They're gonna go down to the end. You're not going to be able to just wipe out David. You're going to expect these men to keep battling. If he withdraws into a city, then we'll drag that city down to the ground into rubble.
Yep.
It was a kill and destroy approach,
Yeah,
basically.
well, wipe out the enemy.
Wipe out the enemy. So that advice sounded sound, and he took that advice over the other advisors.
Well, and it does say it. I'm not sure specifically. God had frustrated the good advice of Ahithophel
Right,
to bring disaster to Absalom.
right.
So-
So I think, the first advice from him was sound. The second advice, obviously, he was saying what David had wanted him to say.
But
in
God,
order to
yeah,
set a trap.
David asked God, which important. I think
Yep.
seems like you ask God.
So Hushai went and told Zadok and Abiathar. Were they priests?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, they were.
What he had told Absalom, and he said and they said in verse 16, tell David to not spend the night in the forts. Now I didn't think there were cars back then, but anyway,
Well, apparently,
crossover.
holy mackerel.
I'm thinking the Jordan, right? Cross over the Jordan without fail, or you will be swallowed up.
Correct.
So telling him this is where you need to go because this army is coming for you. They in turn sent a servant to inform Jonathan and Ahimaaz to go and tell David. They were spotted in the city, so they fled to a house in Buram. Absalom had found out that these two were, in that area, so the lady of the house hid them in a well.
Yep.
And Absalom had sent men out to look, and they came across this woman and said, have you seen these men? And she said, oh, they crossed over the brook.
Which was interesting. I mean, was the brook? Was she making little of the Jordan, or is that? I don't know. I kind of struck me.
Yeah.
So
I really don't know. I didn't know. I didn't look. I didn't look into it any further than that.
Yeah,
other than
nor
thinking,
did I.
She must have a brook that runs by our
I
house.
was-
I don't know. So these men went and looked, couldn't find him, and they reported back to Absalom. We don't know where he is. When the coast was clear, they climbed out of the well and they went and informed David of what to cross over the Jordan, and they all crossed the Jordan together. Final note: Ahithophel. Say that name.
Well, you had it right the first time. I can't say
Thank
it.
you.
Ahithophel.
His advice was not followed, and he took this to heart. So
Oh, yeah.
he traveled to his house, got his affairs in order, and
Hung
he
himself.
hung himself.
Which, okay.
First time his
That's a
advice
bit.
was ever
Let's
taken.
take. Yeah, I mean, well, yeah. So that's we don't know that. I mean,
Right.
there was paraphrased or not paraphrased, but it was said his vice was like that of God. So he was a trusted informer, advisor. But that's a little bit overkill.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't listen to me, so I'm going to kill myself. I'll show them. But
Yeah, he took it to heart and said, "Well, I guess I'm not needed anymore." So
bye bye. See you later.
now we're going to get into Absalom's death, and he is the king. At this point, he is the king of Israel.
Yes, which is, I mean, just when he took the kingship over, to me, I mean, it was kind of even paraphrased in the last part we did. I mean, he did a little sneaky things to kind of put his face in front of, and he would have made it better. And then he convinced the tribes of Israel and the elders to make him king. So seems
Yeah,
weird.
I mean,
I just thought that was weird.
Yeah, I mean, what a
But he was,
What
he
a-
was a very handsome man, long mane like Saul or Samson had back in the
Yeah.
day. So apparently the people back then were taken aback by looks. I guess I don't know.
yeah.
He
and-
looked the part, but David was supposed to be handsome as well. So
I mean, to convince all those people, it's quite a feat, and we have to remember this is all God's plan. I mean,
oh, definitely.
God
Yeah.
arranged this, and Absalom was just a pawn in that plan, basically. So we're moving on to Absalom's death. So David had crossed the Jordan, as we know, and he arrived in Mahanaim. Absalom crossed the Jordan and appointed Amasa over his army, and they camped in the land of Gilead.
It's an important name, Amasa.
Yeah.
Yep. Why? We'll find out what that's important. But
Chapter 18 has no title.
uh,
David mustered the men for battle in verse 2. I myself will surely march out with you. But David's men asked him to give them support from the city in case they are forced to flee. Basically, they're saying, your life is worth way more than 10,000 of us combined, so we can't put you in that position anymore of possibly being harmed.
well, I think it was along with, and it's probably a warning too. Well, maybe his men took it because to from Hashi or Hashai, his the one that countered that funny name guys.
Yeah.
But he's like, yeah, well, I mean, because one of David's worth 10,000 of the men, and they just want to kill David. That was actually his counsel was just kill David.
is horrible.
Sorry, that name is
Is there
tough.
any way you can edit that in there and something like some man's deep
Oh,
voice saying the
awful.
word
exactly.
properly?
Yeah, do the Bible. Yeah, exactly. So you know who we mean. Read it because that's the whole
please.
point.
Read it.
Read it with us.
All right. David gave an order to all of his men in verse 5. Be gentle with Absalom for my sake. So imagine that this is you and that Absalom is your son. No matter how much the betrayal, no matter how much it's your son, you love him, it's your flesh and blood, there's always forgiveness there. And
It's a pattern with David versus Saul that I've noted.
Yeah.
Saul was very vengeful and self, thought of himself over everything.
Mm-hmm.
David's always, he has empathy for everybody else, and he's always thinking he did something wrong. So
that's a good point. I mean, he definitely has a heart of forgiveness in him. I mean, there's just no doubt about
That
it.
must be why he's in God's favor.
So he gave that order, and in the end, there was a battle, and David's men did defeat Israel, and the casualties were 20,000
Kick their butts.
total.
Yep.
Absalom, and so this is interesting. He's riding along on his donkey during the battle, I assume, and you want to take
Well,
it from there?
Sure. I mean, he's riding along. I don't know if he has a man bun or something, but his donkey goes underneath the low-hanging branches, and it snags his hair, and he's hanging, and he can't get out. That was, I mean, talk about humiliation. So
Yeah, you're reading. It's all serious stuff, and then all of a sudden, oh, and by the way, he got his hair stuck in a branch. He hung there.
And then that's the least of it. I will. You want me to serve it back to you, or you want me to continue?
No, man, go ahead.
All right. So Job's men heard, and they told Joab. Sorry,
Joab.
we're not to Job yet. And he's like, well, why did you not kill him? And they're like, he is the king's son. The king said, do not. They heard him on the battle. Do not kill.
Absolutely.
A big point we didn't say is David's like, don't kill him.
Right.
So, we've learned this, like Mephibosheth, Mephibosheth, whatever his name was. Remember, he did
I
wrong,
gotcha.
and then they let him back. So
Yeah.
so that's what David
Absolutely.
does, the same thing. He doesn't want his son killed.
Absolutely. I mean, who knows how that would have ended if he had accepted Absalom back into his life and you have to lock him in prison because, you know.
Well, you
I mean,
can't trust him, and we know that. No,
exactly
but it's saying he's
right.
his
But
son.
he did not want him.
Yeah,
He did not want him to die.
exactly. He felt, it's his son. He loved him.
Yep.
Which is, is a dangerous thing. We'll learn in a bit, or potentially dangerous. But anyways, so Joab's like, well, he takes javelins and he throws 3 of them into his body, and that apparently didn't kill him. So Job's armor bearers end up finishing him off, and they tossed him into a pit and threw rocks over him. So,
Yep. Word is going to get back to David, so this is called David Mourns.
which is, I'll let you. I'll serve back to.
Yeah,
back
Joab
to-
had a Cushite man that he had picked to run and tell David what had taken place. For some reason, a man named Ahimaaz, son of Zadok.
the priest's son.
Yeah,
yes.
he was asking Joab, "Hey, I want to run and tell David," and he was like, "Why do you want to run?" And he's like, "Because I want to run." I mean, I'm not sure why this guy so desperately wanted to be the one to run to David and inform him.
So I think from Ahimaaz's perspective, they've killed the enemy. He didn't. I don't know if he was privy to, or he obviously didn't hear that David said, "Do not harm him." And Joab is being a great leader. He's like, "There's no good news to be told here." So,
Right, and Joab's the one that did it.
Exactly.
He's certainly
Well,
not going back to tell.
I don't think I'm getting. I mean, reading this, I don't think Joab's the least bit concerned. He's doing his role. He's a trusted warrior. He's the leader of David's army. So
Right.
he's like, I know David doesn't want him, but David's he's got skin in the game here. He's got an unclear mind. It's his
Right.
son, but we know from the outside what he did to him. I'm getting rid of this dude.
And it's never really discussed later on. You'll see that David never has a discussion with Joab about why you went against my orders or anything like that. So
Not at
these
all.
2 men are running to tell David. Ahimaaz arrives first, though. Even though he took off second, he took a little bit of a shortcut and got there first, and he told David of the victory, but he did not tell him of his son's death.
Well, so I'm going to jump into a couple things. So eventually, Ahimaaz convinced Joab that he wanted to do it, and like he said, he got there first, and he was smart. He read. I don't know if he had an epiphany or what, but he's like, yeah, there's great news, but I don't remember what it was. He kind of usurped that and jumped out of the way because both the people saw the 2 men running, right? So it's like, oh, they got to have great news. And I think that's when he kind of, Joab's counsel said, yeah, this is the king's son. Maybe this isn't a good thing.
Right, exactly. Because we know what happens sometimes when people bring what they think is good news to David.
But yeah, the last 2 times, it didn't end well.
Yeah, it didn't end well for them. So let's see where we're at here. Ahimaaz arrived first and told David of the victory, but not his son's death. The Cushite arrived, and David asked about his son in verse 32. And the man replied, may the enemies of my lord the king and all who rise up to harm you be like the young man. Basically saying he's dead. He had no problem telling him.
No,
David took it hard. He didn't do anything to that young man like I was kind of expecting to happen. But David wept for his son, and he honestly wished that it was he that had died.
So bad, his famous lines are, "Oh, Absalom, my son, my son, Absalom." And then he basically, I should have been me that died.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, let's get over this.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's bad, Steve.
And I know that, and it could have been. It could have been him that died, but, so obviously he went to battle knowing that it could turn out however it turns out, right? It could be him, could be a son. He didn't want his son to die, but he could have laid down his life for his son, but he didn't.
Well,
so now seems like he's having some regrets here.
David hasn't lost the battle. So,
Right.
and he's of God's favor. I'm pretty certain David knew the end. I just think he didn't want it to happen the way he did.
Yeah.
So that's my thought.
Moving on to chapter 19, which has no title. Joab was told the king was weeping and mourning. And he warned the king in verse 6, you love those that you hate, and you hate those that you love. In verse 7, no man will be left with you by nightfall.
He basically, because his people were like expecting this, yay!
Yes, right.
And he's
You
in
did
there
a
sulking.
great job.
Yeah,
All
he's
right.
sulking, and he's hiding, and they, apparently when they come back from victory, the king
Sure.
watches them come back, and
He wasn't
or
out
as they
there.
do in England. So this isn't happening. Joab, like I said, he's not afraid. He's his counsel. He's like, God is my witness. You don't get your butt out there
Yep.
and show yourself and hide your mourning, you're not going to have a man left by nightfall. And that's a
Right.
serious thing. And because he just won victory back over,
Right.
and he was fleeing. I mean, Absalom wanted to kill him.
I mean, who wants to go to war to begin with, and then you come back to this ungrateful, basically person who doesn't.
Well-
You can't even say thank you, but he's actually mourning for the enemy.
Yeah, that's a hard one because again, he's mourning. I think I mean, he wanted the victor, but I think
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
David returns to Jerusalem. The tribes of Israel argued. Their king Absalom was dead. David had asked the elders of Judah in verse 11, "Why should you be the last to bring the king back to his palace?" In verse 12, "You are my flesh and blood." So the argument between the Israelite tribes were, what, our king is dead, or are we going to be taking this other king? Are we going to be taking David back?
all right. So what they said was, Absalom, who we had, the king is fleeing. Absalom, who we appointed king with the elders, is now dead. Why are we not bringing back?
Okay.
So this is Israel, not Judah at the time. This is Israel,
Right.
which is, as we're learning now. There's a separation that we're starting to see. The tribe of Judah versus the tribes of Israel,
Right.
and we learn here too that because there's God's favor is, I think, with Judah, and that's at least my hedge right now. But yeah, so they're arguing with Israel about why aren't we the ones to bring him back? So
Right.
they brought this up first. So
Right. So Judah and Israel are going to have this struggle here that we're going to discuss in just a second. David had won the hearts of the people so that they were all of one mind.
and this is who. Whose hearts did he win?
Israel.
No, he won the hearts of Judah
He won the hearts of Judah.
first.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that was because it was Israel's idea to bring him back. It wasn't Judah's, and that's what the point was.
Okay.
He was going to Judah, going, "Hey, Israel says this. Why aren't you? You are my flesh and blood. You are my
All right.
people."
I got that reversed. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay. In verse 14, he says, "Return you and all your men." So he's speaking to Judah
yes,
at that point. Okay. The men of Judah came. Thank you. And so did a Benjamite named Shemaiah. How
Yes.
about that? Shemaiah.
there you go.
And he also was accompanied by 1,000 Benjamites. And Ziba, who we all know was the servant of
Yes,
Jonathan's son.
Mephibosheth.
Yes, the man with the
He was Saul's son, Mephibosheth, the
man
lame
with
one.
the feet.
Yep, the
Yep.
lame one. Yep.
Ziba was there with his 15 sons, and all met David to escort him across the Jordan.
Who else?
Say it, dude.
Well, you brought him up, and this is one of my things I'm curious about.
Yep.
Mephibosheth.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Mephibosheth joined him as well, and David's like, why didn't you go with me? Because he's the one that said you would have a seat at my table forever. Then Ziba said to him, well, in the last book we learned that Ziba told David that he was waiting to get his land back. So we argued it. Go back to the last video. What the heck's this dude doing?
Right.
So what happens? Mephibosheth's telling, and he comes back. He hadn't taken care of himself. He hasn't washed his feet. He hasn't trimmed his mustache and cut his hair, and he looks nasty. And David asked him. He goes, "Well, I didn't come with you because Ziba betrayed me.
Right.
He basically didn't put him on his donkey, so he couldn't come with him. So David's like, instead of being that bastard, which is what I would say, because he fooled me. He said, I'll make him give half the land back to you. What?
Yeah.
Did you catch that?
Yeah, and instantly I'm thinking, okay, maybe, David's hearing one thing from Ziba, and he's hearing one thing from that dude, and he's thinking, who's telling me the truth here? Either one of them could be lying. So, all right, just divide the
And
land.
it's hard to say
And
because
he
it
spares
is
them all.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically God's.
Yep.
I mean, God's chosen one, David. He's always looking out for the.
Right.
Which
So
is,
this Benjamite Shema, he also crossed the Jordan. He fell prostrate before David, and he begged for forgiveness, and he begged for his life.
we remember him, right?
yeah, I mean, he definitely betrayed, but I mean, who exactly?
He was the dude when he was on exile and heading out, fleeing. He was the one throwing rocks at him and insults.
Okay.
So he was a bad guy.
Okay.
Now he's like, whoop.
Yeah. Please forgive me.
And he doesn't.
And there were men there that were saying, "Oh, he should be put to death." And David stood up for him and said, "Who are you to say?"
Yeah, he
should be
didn't. He
put to
didn't
death?"
insult your
Right.
family. He insulted mine. So who's going to say it?
Right.
It's me. But again, David's not looking to do this.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's kind of confusing because, as we've read he was putting folks to death that harmed Saul. So I'll say that
Yeah.
those that harmed Saul and his family, he had vengeance on, but to himself, he looks to maybe, well, I caused this. So take that away.
Yep. In verse 23, he had told Shimei, "You shall not die." So again, he's also taking a chance here, right? Because somebody who's crossed you once, there's a chance they could cross you again down the road.
But I think he wants the men and heal it. I guess.
Yep. We are on to chapter 20. Sheba rebels against David.
Uh-oh.
A Benjamite named Sheba sounded a trumpet and shouted in verse 1, "We have no share in David." So we were talking about Israel and Judah arguing about who has more claim to David. And he shouted, "Every man to his tent, Israel." All Israel abandoned David. Judah escorted David back to Jerusalem. So Israel just sort of washed their hands of David at that moment.
Which is so bizarre because they were fighting over him just in the last chapter. Now Sheba comes back and says, "I don't think so. Come
and why
with
has
me."
this one man got so much say over Israel?
I mean, I'm basically what we've been reading. We'll probably read down the road in later chapters. But I thought this is important. And I don't know if the counsel was from somebody here. Basically, what he is. So Absalom was dangerous. We know that. But David said what Sheba did is way more dangerous. So we have to get this dude and get rid of him. So
David says to Amasa in verse 4, "Summon the men of Judah to come to me within 3 days and be here yourself." But he did not return within that time frame.
So we remembered Amasa.
David orders Abishai to take men to hunt down Sheba. At the great rock in Gibeon, Amasa met them. Joab approaches Amasa and asks in verse 9, "How are you, my brother?" Now, as he's approaching, you want to tell that story about the dagger?
Well, so it was confusing. He had Joab had the dagger, and was it Joab's dagger that fell out?
Joab, yep.
But his dagger fell out. But then cut to, as they say, he grabs his beard by his right hand and then proceeds to stab him in the gut, and they spill out.
Yep.
And he dies.
So they were approaching each other like they were friendly.
Well,
at that point.
Well, because David asked Amasa to go gather the troops, and he didn't, and be back in 3 days. And he wasn't back in 3 days. So he took his time.
Right.
So what was interesting is, clearly Amasa was on Absalom's side and in cahoots with Sheba, I believe.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, and Joab, which we learned is very faithful to David, and he knows what's best for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, he knows what's best for him.
They pursued Sheba to Abel Beth Makkah. Joab came to fight his way into the city where Sheba had fled. They were ready to tear the city down if they had to.
Yeah,
basically.
they were banging on its gates, going to tear it down.
So a woman, I'm presuming inside, asked to speak to Joab, and she asked that her city not be destroyed. And in return, in verse 21, she says his head will be thrown from the wall. So we're going to give you his head, and in return, you just leave our
Well,
city
yeah,
the way it is.
it's apparently it's a very respectable,
Peaceful
city of Israel.
Yep.
So why would you want to take this down? So.
Yep. So that's what they did. David's official. So as you're reading along, you're going to come across this, David's officials, and it's going to give you a list and basically titles and names of officials. And I'm not going to go ahead and read them. And
Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3,
I don't think there's a
4,
reason
5,
to.
6, and we've heard a few. Yeah, I mean we've heard of them before.
that's true
some of
too.
them. So
chapter 21, the Gibeonites avenged.
yeah, this was kind of out there. I mean, at first,
Yeah.
no, it circled back. Like I said, we'll learn probably about
Yeah.
Sheba later down the road and some stuff in Amasa maybe. But yeah, so this is going back, circling back to the Gibeonites, right? These are people that God spared because they helped them, I think,
Yeah.
when they were fleeing Egypt.
Yeah.
And then Saul's like, well, I'm not going to uphold that. I'm going to kill him. So
Yeah.
I'll serve it back to Randy.
So we jump ahead 3 years. There was a famine
Yep.
for 3 years, and David had asked the Lord. You know why it took 3 years to ask the Lord? But he said in verse 1, the Lord said, on account of Saul in his blood-stained house, because he put the Gibeonites to death. David summoned the Gibeonites, I guess there were some still around, in verse 3, and said, how shall I make atonement so that you will bless the Lord's inheritance?
Interesting.
They asked for 7 of Saul's male descendants be given up to be killed and expose the bodies before the Lord at Gibeah of Saul, the Lord's chosen one.
Which is interesting because we just got done hearing about Mephibosheth, which is the one that can sit at his table, right? The lame
right.
boy.
Yep, the lame boy. Yeah,
He spared him,
right.
but
He made a covenant with him.
yep. So he spared him, but he ended up, and it didn't give a lot of names. It said
Yeah,
sons of no.
2 sons of Aiah, whom she born for Saul, and 5 sons of Saul's daughter Merab. In verse 9, all 7 fell together on the first day of the barley harvest.
So that's what I was going to bring up. So there was
Yep,
Mephibosheth was a hard enough name.
yep,
There's another one.
absolutely.
So he ended up, because at first I read that, well, so he spared him, but then he ends up giving over to the Gibeonites. Well, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
There's another one. So it's Mephibosheth, a different one, and Armani,
yeah,
Giorgio maybe? I don't know.
his ancestor, yeah.
Exactly. And then you said the 5 sons of that. So that was,
Yeah.
it was interesting.
And I did read too that the mother of the 5 sons, who was Saul's daughter, sat out with the bodies and kept the bugs away. And
The birds in the
Birds
days
and-
and the animals at night. And
yeah, so we're talking about, I mean, basically we're talking about human sacrifice here, which I really kind of found disturbing.
well, I don't want to say it's sacrifice. Well, so
I mean,
that
this-
was confusing. They displayed before the Lord. So I don't understand that. So I mean, somebody knows what that means.
I'm
And
lost there, please.
Well, yeah, just because God told them to do this, right? Well, God said that's what happened. That's why. So David went and asked them what they wanted,
This is
and
what
he
they
gave
wanted.
them. And I don't think they sacrificed them. I think they killed them, displayed them. Maybe I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, it's weird.
Well, and also, God's not the one that said.
No, he didn't say kill them.
They had free will and they chose,
Yeah.
this is what we want, whether God was okay with that or not.
Well, he was, because then so I don't know if the
Okay.
act or the act of what the Gibeonites did,
Right.
or if it was David seeking
Right.
forgiveness from them, I guess,
Yep.
because God relieved the plague.
God,
He
yeah,
pulled it, yeah.
exactly.
But
so,
but
whatever-
also too though, so it's interesting because when the Gibeonites, when they're the ones that killed Saul, right? And it's Jonathan. So when David saw, which would have been one of Saul's concubines, because her 5 kids were killed plus the 2 other kids, male descendants. David saw this and he said he took heart to that and he went and took back the bones. So that my guess is God relieved the plagues or the famine from
Right.
because of him just taking Saul, because again Saul was God's choice as well. So he brought back his bones and they all buried him in Saul's father Kish's tomb.
Right.
So
exactly. So again, he was pleased with David. Maybe not
Absolutely.
necessarily pleased that the Gibeonites. This is what they chose
yeah, I don't think
to
that
make
was-
amends.
Yeah, let us know. I mean,
know.
this is a journey. This is a story.
Yeah.
A story. This is a conversation, and we want your feedback as well.
I want to know.
Yes.
War against the Philistines.
Again.
Where have we heard this
You say,
before?
I mean, that's one thing we'll note about David. He is a warrior, and I guess we'll get to the
I
final.
want these Philistines wiped off the face
they're
of the
still-
map. Is that okay to say?
Is it just me? Maybe I haven't watched the news for a while just because of crazy world, but I think isn't Israel still fighting with the Philistines? And what we're learning now, what we know as Israel,
Oh,
is
Lord.
is part of what we see now. I think Judah
Okay.
is the Israel we hear about today in the news is the country,
Okay.
because
I'm gonna have to
we'll
look
leave it
this
there.
up,
We'll
man.
discuss this as we go. So I digress. Back to Randy.
David went with his men to fight and became exhausted. Is he getting
Oh, yeah.
old? Getting old? The Philistine Ishba-benob said he would kill David, but Abishai struck him down.
Abishai.
Abishai. David's men in verse 17, never again will you go out to battle with us, so the lamp of Israel will not be extinguished. Again, they just don't want to risk David being harmed.
They got smart finally. Although he didn't go to battle with them last time against Sheba.
Yep.
But
so more battles ensued, and basically they give a list of locations and who they killed.
yes, a lot.
So you can read that on your own.
Yep, exactly.
But at Gath, you want to take that one? A huge man.
Oh, with 6 fingers and 6 toes on each, so a 24 total.
Mm-hmm.
So so he wasn't a. He was one. They killed him. Jonathan, son of Shema, killed him.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the bigger one was at Gob. Hishite killed Saph, a descendant of Rapha, which is another. And that wasn't the big one. The big one was also at Gath. A huge. I just skipped over it. Sorry. Which one was Goliath's brother? Oh, Elhanan. 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 Sorry.
Goliath's brother.
Yeah.
All right.
A son of Jair killed Goliath's brother. So that was one of the.
So again, we're talking about a list of battles and who was there and who killed who, and you're free to read up on that yourself.
We said we weren't going to list them, but we just listed some.
Yeah, it's too much. We are on the chapter 22, David's Song of Praise. This is another one. This is going to be your chapter to read because the entire chapter is a song that David sings to the Lord. Basically, he sings the Lord, praises him because of he delivered David from the hands of all his enemies, and I'm sure a bunch of other things.
And part of it too is just reading a little side notes and doing some investigation to understand it. We're going to hear, I think, a lot of these pieces of the song.
Yeah.
Almost gave it away. Well, I'm giving it away in Psalms. I think there's a lot, and that's going to be one. I'm nervous about Psalms because I've read lots of Psalms, and there's a lot of them. They're like songs, hymns, poems.
Yeah.
So,
chapter 23, David's last words. Now you know what I thought when I read that.
he was going to be dead.
Yeah, I thought he was going to die, but
No,
he didn't.
he is not.
So again, this one reads more like a poem where he's praising his covenant with God, and he's also praising God because of the many blessings that were bestowed upon him.
And it was looking for the last words, and it was more of a paraphrase of stuff. Which,
Right. Yeah, exactly. This is things you've done for me.
Yeah.
And also, at the end of that chapter, there's a list of David's mighty warriors, and he lists 37 of them in all. So again, you're reading along. You've got to read that. The final chapter, chapter 24. So this is 3 weeks to get through 2 Samuel for us. So we've done 3 videos on this. This will be our last one.
This is not 2 Samuels. This is 3 weeks to get through 2 Samuel.
2 Samuel's, yep.
3 weeks for 1 Samuel, or 4 weeks.
4
didn't
weeks,
we?
yeah.
So
Again, we've been busy traveling. I just got a new puppy. Steve, I don't know what he does.
yeah, me neither. All I do know is I do like breaking it up because there is. It's important to understand what this is,
Yeah.
and again, like I said, we're just going to get through. Our first
Yeah.
thing is cover to cover, and it's going to be a long time, but it's awesome.
There's a lot of this online where they're going to take an entire book, and they're going to explain it to you in 5 minutes. You're not really getting much. That's why we're doing this. We want you to read along, book by book. We're going to go through the entire Bible, however many videos it takes. It takes.
And then we're going to continue on and deep dive because, and we probably might do a catch up or a recap. Yeah. But I want to show a shout out to my old praise leader in Houston, Texas, Cypress, Texas, Seth Gerke. He's just about to graduate in his he'll be a pastor himself. And where I'm giving the shout out for is the deep dives we'll do. He was doing some pictures of the book stacks he had for just like on David and just the different parts. So there is historical scholars and biblical scholars that just dive into this and. Man, we have a long ways to go. This is a fun journey. The more we read, the more I want to know. So
it's amazing, yeah.
Yeah. So this finish this one out because we started this before the video on a conversation about what we're going to get to. So
that's right. Chapter 24. David enrolls the fighting men. Again, the Lord's anger burns against Israel
and incites David. 2.
He was told to take a census of the fighting men of Israel, and Joab was asked to lead this effort, but he questions why, David, why would you do this? Well, Joab knew that it was wrong to do this right from the start.
He's like, may the Lord your God multiply the troops 100 times. So in other words, seek God.
Right.
David's like, no, I want a census.
Right.
But
Out of the blue. Just out of the blue, I want a census.
yeah.
Lord did not say, and we've heard that in the past where the Lord had asked to take a census. Not to David necessarily, but to Moses.
Well, his prophet, and I was trying to think, I don't recall that, and that was in the last one. Yeah, and I didn't write down because all the mighty warriors and all that stuff. And I think it was, well, I'm not going to go back in
What
it,
are you
but
talking
when,
about?
when we stuck, well, David has his own prophet, right?
Right.
So there's some priests. Oh, he has his own priest.
None of them mentioned for.
Yeah, so I
anybody.
don't know where this came from, but
Right.
it does say that God enticed David to do this. So
Right,
it's,
it did.
but Job's saying trust in God, but God is telling David. So so go on.
Yeah, and I went on the internet and I looked, and it said, there are people out there that are going to give an explanation, but nobody really knows. It doesn't explain. We're going to get into this, okay? So Joab was put in charge, and he completed the task in 9 months and 20 days. Israel had 800,000 soldiers, and Judah had 500,000 soldiers. So he comes back and reports this to David, and then David was all of a sudden conscience stricken. And in verse 10, I have sinned greatly in what I have done. It hits him then.
Yeah. So
You know?
is he hypnotized or?
Yeah. So what are we talking about here? And again, I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I sort of read online. This is not in the Bible itself.
Okay.
So it was not God that actually had said, go out and take the census, but it was actually Satan that had tricked David into taking the census. And because of this, David now needs to atone. Okay, so this is not explained in the Bible.
Well, it's not explained. Well, so it is explained in the Bible. Your references come from, I think, Chronicles, because
Okay, so maybe later on we're gonna.
yeah. So
That's what
this
you're
is
saying.
a
Okay.
conversation
Not explained
piece.
now. Okay.
Well, no. So yeah, we don't know because he said we learn more about and stuff, and I think we're going to go into Kings. There's 2 Kings, and there's 2 Chronicles, and then there's some
Okay.
more stuff. So, but I was. This is the Bible for Dummies too. It was interesting. It brought it up too.
So the sin was what? He was just, he wants a strong army.
Well,
'cause
no,
it's gonna make 'em-
so the sin is not trusting in God. Anytime he ever went to battle, he prayed to God for direction, and God won for them. This time, this is why this is a conversation piece,
Right.
and we're bringing you into this because we don't know. God incited him to do this, so God's the one who told him. So, but there, like I said, in the Bible for Dummies, and I don't know any of this, but it mentions that in Chronicles it says, well, Satan did this, like you just mentioned.
Right.
But what I don't get at all, and this is where, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but it says in Job, which just is mind blowing to me, is God, Satan has to come to God before he messes with people, and I don't know if that's true. I don't even know, but I thought Satan's whole.
And what I had read was that God allowed Satan to do this because nothing happens without God's.
Oh, I
approval.
agree 100% with that, but with Satan asking God's permission before he messes with us, I don't. I mean, maybe that's on another level that I don't even want to know because my whole understanding and belief is
Yeah.
Satan is trying to overcome us, so he becomes God to us and wins. Which
This is
I
going
know.
to take some deep research.
yeah, I'm not even going to go down that. We'll see the
From
Job.
actual PhDs.
Well, not even that. Not heck the PhDs. With just the belief in God. I'm going to believe that
Some
there's
pastors
some
or-
deep stuff there. So yeah, maybe God doesn't
Ask
want.
your friend, the pastor, please.
Yes. Well, we will do that.
right. Yeah, I
But,
wanna
but
know.
wait until we get to Job, because that's where it talks
Okay.
about it. I mean, Chronicles just points out,
Okay.
and the covering for Chronicles is to kind of put God back in the good plane, and God doesn't need to be
Right.
put in the good plane.
And we've heard about how when Satan comes, we're going to think it's the next coming.
Well, the first,
Right.
from what we have learned, it's
Right. So remember, somebody whispered in David's ear, "Hey, you need to go out and do this," and
Yep.
it was Satan that was doing it. David in verse 14, "I am in deep distress. Let me fall into the hands of the Lord, but do not let me fall into human hands." So he was given.
three.
I skipped something. He was given 3 choices as an atonement. Okay, and the Lord gave David 3 choices. 1 was 3 years of famine. 2 was 3 months of fleeing from your enemies, and 3 was 3 days of plague. And basically, what he's saying here is, as far as like fleeing from enemies, I don't want to fall into human hands. I'm going to trust in the Lord to do what He thinks is best. and it was the plague.
But he's punishing him for what was incited by him. So,
Right.
which we're still not sure. According to what we're reading now, it says God incited him. So God's
It did.
punishing him for what God told him to do.
Right.
Mind blown.
70,000 people were killed from this plague. David saw an angel who was striking down the people in verse 17. I have sinned, I the shepherd. Let your hands fall on me and my family. In other words, this is my fault. Let's not kill any more people. So David builds an altar.
Where?
Gad to David in verse 18. Go and build the altar to the Lord on the threshing floor of Araunah, the Jebusite, in order to stop the plague. Araunah offered everything the king desired for free, but David said in verse 24, no, I insist on paying for it, 50 shekels of silver. So this guy was like, whatever you need, take it all.
You're king, yeah.
Take it all.
But David's
Yeah.
no. I mean, giving it for free isn't a sacrifice, right?
So he built an altar and he performed burnt offerings and fellowship offerings, and the plague was stopped. And that's where it ends.
That was where it ends, but there's some deep stuff there, right? 70,000 men were killed. Well, what is that? That's punishing him for taking a census, killing so he has less men.
Right.
Because he didn't trust in God, and God would, so it's like I said, I'm a little bit mind blown.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it explains it down the road because,
Yeah.
and if you guys know, if anybody knows, please
comment.
give
Let
us a
us know.
reference where to go because this is pretty interesting.
I mean, you can comment on our Facebook page. You can
exactly.
message to the YouTube channel, I'm assuming.
Yeah, but I check comments.
go.
I mean, I know it's it's going to take a while for people, but
Yeah.
people are going to get the urge to read because we're reading it and learning a lot.
Absolutely.
So
We hope you're loving it as much as we are, and we thank you for joining us. We're going to be moving on to Kings next. How many chapters? I don't know. We're going to let you know soon, but we will be filming that next Wednesday, I'm assuming. And this video should be out about the same time as the other, so keep a watch.
Yep,
All right.
cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
you all come back now. You hear?